Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Pause for Clarity. So this is the space where we slow things down. This is the space where we stop trying to fix ourselves and where we listen a little bit more deeply of what is really going on beneath the surface. So today we're talking about something that almost everybody experiences, but very few people feel safe enough to admit, and that is the feeling of being alone. So we all know that feeling, right? And nobody wants to be alone. Nobody wants to feel isolated. Yet there are millions and millions of people who are silently battling this feeling. And I want to break it down for you. And I want to actually start by saying there's nothing wrong with you. I'm going to say that again. There is nothing wrong with you as a person. What amplifies this feeling is that we always question ourselves by saying, there must be something wrong with me because I feel alone, right? So why am I so alone? Why do I feel this alone? What is wrong with me? So I want to make this very clear that this does not mean that you are failing at life. This does not mean that you lack faith. This also does not mean that you are not lovable. It has nothing to do with you. So feeling alone is also, and this is the important part, it is not just this spiritual or this emotional experience that you feel. Science shows that it is deeply rooted in how your brain and your nervous system work. So feeling alone is simply what happens when your nervous system no longer feels safe or supported or seen. So I had a client, let's call her Mary, the other day. So she has been journeying with me for quite a bit. And her frustration lies in that her husband, it's a second marriage, that whenever they have a family gathering or whenever they have a braai, he always goes and sits next to his grown-up daughter. And then she feels as if she's being ignored. She feels as if he doesn't see her anymore and she's kind of invisible. That's how she feels. That is the feeling around her. And all of his attention is now on his family, which is his daughter and the grandchildren. So what she does is the moment that she feels this frustration building up, she actually gets up and then she walks out of the conversation. In other words, she goes to the kitchen to keep herself busy, but she withdraws. In other words, she goes to be on her own. So the funny feeling around this is she already feels alone. Now she's isolating herself even more, and this is where the contradicting part came in, and that's what we were working on in the session. So I know that this scenario will speak to a lot of you because the annoyance is that really this is what is happening, in your circumstances, and you feel alone. And I mean, it's so obvious, right? Because what other evidence do you need for, but I really do feel alone? So, to give you another example, maybe you've been to a function before and your husband goes off to the bar area and he pours himself, or he actually buys himself a drink and he comes back to you and he didn't buy you anything, right? The frustration that you feel around that because, why is he so selfish, right? Why is he only thinking about himself? He didn't think about getting you that drink. So what do? You get up and you think, you know what, I will just go and get it myself. I can take care of myself. So I always do. And what the feeling that comes with that is that he doesn't have your back. So I'll just do it myself. Now, the problem lies in I can take care of myself. So loneliness often comes with the stories that we tell ourselves in our head, and these stories are what our brains perceive. So even when we are physically with people, our minds can create stories like, I'm not enough, or nobody understands me. So these stories light up in your brain in ways similar to actual social pain. Essentially, the nervous system reacts as if you were really socially rejected, even if no one actually rejected you. So I always tell people that, we are mammals. We are mammals. We just have a prefrontal cortex side brain. That is our thinking brain. That is what differentiates us from the rest of the mammal groups, right? So in other words, what happens when we are isolated in the wild? Well, then you become vulnerable. In other words, you don't feel safe. And feeling lonely is also a kind of perceived separation. So it's not just from people, but it's also from ourselves. So Mary, in this instance, her husband actually died a few years back, and her 3 children were still very small when that happened. And so with her circumstances, that forced her to be strong. She had to be the strong one. And now, as a single parent for her kids, and that was just her reality at the time. I mean, you have to be strong if you are the only single parent left, right? But over the years, her strongness actually caused her to isolate herself even more without her knowing it. Because her brain was telling her that, and that's a story in your head that keeps on repeating, is that it is safer for you to look after yourself because your safety, your stability could be taken away at any time. So how does that work? Your brain's main function is to keep you alive. How does it do it? By predicting what's going to happen to you. So whenever you have some sort of traumatic happening in your life, your brain actually makes a mental note and says, you know what, be careful, make sure this doesn't happen again. And that is why your brain is actually protecting you from doing the same thing again. So that is why this is in your back brain. This is where it's stuck, but that is where you operate from. So what happened with Mary is to protect her heart, she had to become strong, right? But that strongness does not allow anyone in. And that goes for her second husband as well. And the unconscious story that you have created in your head is that there is no one for me, no one sees me, or no one sees my needs. Those are the programs running in your head. And the moment that they go on holiday, these were her words to me, and the moment that they go on holiday, well, then she experiences this intimacy between the two. Then everything is fine. Then she can feel the love between the two. But whenever they are around the family, well, then I don't matter to him anymore. So I do not minimize what she is experiencing, because that is what her brain is actually seeing. But what is really happening is the moment that there is a family gathering, her nervous system warns her that she feels triggered. So what does she do? So she removes herself from everyone, isolating herself, amplifying the lonely feeling. But all she wants to really have is intimacy with them, and obviously with her husband. And she also says that she's got the greatest time with her grandkids. Why? Because they give her unconditional love. So deep down, she is not allowing anyone to love her. Why? Because her brain is telling her that these feelings might go away at any time. Just like my husband when he died. And what does that mean for me? That means that I need to be strong again, all over again. But guess what? Mary is a human being. Mary wants connection with other people. Mary is craving love. It makes her human. But what is the flip side to this? The flip side is that Mary can be independent. Mary knows how to be independent. She has to do it for years. But what she's doing now, and what her brain is doing now, is preventing her from intimacy, because she's waiting for the other person to respond. So she's also waiting to be proven right by her ego, by waiting and focusing on what is lacking, because her husband is used to it. He's used to her taking care of herself. So he knows that she will go and fetch her own drink. Does this make it right? That is not what this conversation is about. Because it doesn't mean him not fetching her drink doesn't mean that he doesn't love her, but that is what she's perceiving. And that is the story in her mind. And that is how her limiting belief is playing out in her circumstances. So Mary needs to let go of the past. She doesn't have to be strong anymore. So she can be human. And a human needs love and needs support and needs connection. So she's holding on to being strong, which is actually underlyingly holding her stuck, which is underlyingly keeping her lonely. So instead of waiting for intimacy, instead of waiting for that friend to call you, instead of sitting around in your home feeling alone, waiting, what responsibility can Mary actually take to feel connected again? Or you? What responsibility in your circumstances can you take? And I'm going to emphasize you, because the problem is we always blame other people, especially in relationships. But what patterns are there in your life? What scenarios keep repeating themselves over and over again? So if you can get curious about certain ways that you react and why you react in certain ways, if you can get curious about that, your perception will change and you can grow. So if you have relationship problems, then I want to say that is a great blessing. Why? Because relationships are there to trigger you, to find out where you are not free. What I always say is where there's a trigger, there's an opportunity. So with that, I want to say to you that if you want to get into your own head, and if you want to stop these lies that will keep repeating itself over and over again, send me an email to info@clarityworks.co.za. And let's unpack your self-limiting beliefs, because what is on the other side for you is freedom.